Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Hey, how's it going? You seen
Pretty
any?
good.
You seen any of your peach blossoms down there in Georgia yet?
No, we've got the green sky.
The
You
what?
know what that is? Green sky.
Oh, green
That's when all
sky.
green sky. That's when all the pine pollen just goes crazy, congested and ridiculous today. So I hope I come through okay. But thanks for asking. You don't get any of that crap up there, do you?
No, what we get in March is yesterday it was 90 degrees while I was mowing the lawn, and then when I sat outside and had a beer after mowing the lawn, actually I had more than one beer.
Good for you.
But by the time I was done, I was sitting in my shorts and t-shirts, and a big old 20-mile-an-hour wind blew in. I woke up this morning and it's 35 degrees. So it's only
Good
a
grief.
55-degree temperature change in about 12 hours. So that's March in St. Louis.
I don't miss that. Not at all. Hey, welcome to the HodlBoomer podcast. This is the second time we're getting our legs under us and figuring out how to do this. I'm Steve. That guy's Greg, my brother. He's the older one, even though he doesn't look like it. And he actually got me into Bitcoin. So that's why we decided to do this thing together. A quick call out to the new folks and folks that have been here for a while. We're glad you're here. We hope that we're talking to people like us that were confused or are seeking Bitcoin and want to learn a little bit more about it. Today we have a lot to cover. We thought it might be instructive or interesting to go over some of the terms that we use or that Bitcoiners generally use. You know what they are, probably. You probably think you know what we mean, but we want to confirm that here. And then we're going to go over the numbers, show you a couple of tools that we use just to see what the numbers are. And then finally today, we're going to give you a little bit of homework. And that is ask you, if you haven't already, and we may be speaking just to a couple of people, but it's important. We would like for you to jump on and get a wallet, probably on the Exodus exchange. Buy $10 worth of Bitcoins. I think that's what's required, $10. This is the first time you'll ever hear us say this. Leave it on chain for a week. We don't believe in leaving anything on chain. We're entirely interested in self-custody, and we'll talk about that too. But we want you to practice through this, so we want you to join Time Chain Calendar. Greg, anything else that we're going to cover that I haven't thought of?
No, just a quick note about these terms. I think, honestly, we as men are really hesitant to admit that we don't understand something. And I don't know what your experience has been, but the people that I talk to, probably 80 to 90%, when they talk about Bitcoin, just say, I don't get it. And then we start to explain it to them, or if they say they want to learn, you use one of these terms that you're talking about, and they don't want to say, I don't know what you're talking about. So this may be very basic 101, but that's kind of the intention of this. And hopefully it's productive. If we're preaching to the choir to some people, great. Just spread the word.
Yeah, good point. I think that's true. Let's modify slightly. Let's go into the terms right away, and then we'll go into numbers after that, if that's okay with you. The first term that we'll probably cover is fiat. We talk about fiat money all the time. What do we mean by fiat money? It's generally government issued currency, and it is no longer backed by anything physical. There's nothing behind fiat currency, and inflation and all of those things happen because of the way fiat is defined.
Think of fiat, I like to call it because I said so money. You know, when we were kids, mom and dad said, I'm not trying to be funny or provocative. I think it's a perfect analogy. When we were kids, dad would say to us, Steve, Greg, go clean the garage. Why? I want to go ride my mini bike, although you didn't have one. I want to watch football. Why do we got to clean the garage? Well, because I said so. Why is this our money? Because our daddy, the government, because they said so. And I know that sounds simplistic. People like to think there's an amazing amount of people that think that our dollar is backed by gold. It's not. It's a Federal Reserve note. It's a private note of a private banking institution. And I could talk for an hour on this, but think of it like because I said so money. That's all it is. Now, does that mean that all paper money is fiat money? No. Our paper money, which is now known as the Federal Reserve note, used to be a gold certificate. After that, it was a silver certificate. You could exchange it for the proper amount of that metal based on the spot price at that time. Well, you can't do that anymore. In 1971, Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard, and we are full fiat. They can print as much as they want to. And you printed a shirt for me one time. I was looking for it this morning. It says, paper money isn't. Well, again, paper money, not all paper money is fiat money, but our paper money is fiat money because I said so money.
By the way, shameless commercial plug here. That shirt that Greg mentioned is available at hodlandtees.com. Next thing we'll talk about is sound money. It's the opposite of fiat money. It's money that holds its value over time, can't be inflated away. Bitcoin is the absolute best definition of sound money that's ever existed. Comments on that, Greg?
Okay, just as an example, like you said, it has some value. Now, in the past, maybe you have or have not heard that seashells in some societies were money. Well, in that little community, a seashell was a sound money because there was a limited amount of it. But if some sailor came over with a boatload of seashells from the Bahamas, it was no longer sound money. But if it has a limited known supply, that money is sound. That's why gold is relatively sound. Silver is relatively sound. Platinum. Collectible cars are expensive, but they are sound money because they have a known market value. Now, you wouldn't exchange it for a loaf of bread, obviously, but it has validity. I'm gonna. Yeah, we're going to keep this short. I'm gonna.
Yeah, we only got a little bit. 30 more to go. These are the most complex. We will take a minute with that. As you heard last week when we talked about the creature from Jekyll Island, inflation is a huge problem. And without going into great detail, inflation is basically a hidden tax. Your dollar buys less each year. And I would invite you to just go to the web and Google chart of inflation, and you'll be amazed at how much it's inflated over the years. Probably doesn't require any more commentary. The next one is a sat or a Satoshi. It's the smallest unit of Bitcoin. 1 Bitcoin equals 100 million sats. You've heard us talk about stacking sats. People are concerned about, well, I'll never get 1 Bitcoin. Well, maybe not, but a sat is going to be worth a lot of money. So be disciplined and stack sats. Next term is self-custody. What do you think about that one?
Self-custody simply means that you have ownership of it. You kind of alluded to it earlier. When you buy Bitcoin, you want to get it off the exchange as soon as possible because honestly, until it is in your own self-custody, your own wallet that nobody else has access to and nobody else knows how to get into it, it's not really yours. In fact, there have been examples on the exchange of them selling stuff they don't really have. And I don't want to name them, but until you have, it's called your private keys, and I don't want to get into the weeds on that, but until you hold it yourself, it's not really yours.
There is even some thought out there that there's more Bitcoin being sold than there is Bitcoin available. People are going to wonder when they go to bring their Bitcoin into the interior, put it in their own custody. They're going to wonder why some of the exchanges are delaying them. So we'll push hard on self-custody next week. We mentioned the blockchain. That's the ledger that is the history of every transaction since the Genesis transaction.
Blockchain is simply software. And as you said, it's a ledger. Now, in the old days, we used to keep a checkbook and reconcile it every month. We'd put $1,000 in, spend $10, $990 and left. put $100 in it, now you have $1,090. A blockchain is nothing more than that. It's just that it's decentralized, and the thousands of nodes that run throughout the world all have to verify that at the same time. And when 51% or more agree on it, then it becomes validated. So it's nothing more than a checkbook ledger, but it's decentralized and it's enormous.
It's
and
huge.
It goes all the way to the beginning.
Next week, or maybe the week after, I'll screenshot my node and show you guys what's actually occurring. It's an interesting visual. Having every 4 years, Bitcoin supply issuance cuts in half. What does that mean for us today, Greg?
Well, Bitcoin is created by a group of miners solving a very complex algorithm. And when that algorithm is solved, another Bitcoin is created. Now, we talk about every 4 years, and that is a rough estimate because technically it's every 210,000 new blocks that come out. That's when the supply is cut in half. So currently, the mining reward, which when Bitcoin started was 50 full Bitcoin per block. 4 years later, it became 25. 4 years later, after that, it became 12 and a half. After that, 6 and a quarter. Now it's 3 1/8.
There's a really interesting chart. We'll show it in a minute called Time Chain Calendar. And it breaks down the current value of Bitcoin. And actually, you can go back historically and look at what happened during the halvings. That leads to the other next term we'll talk about, and that's hard cap. Only 21 million Bitcoin will ever exist, period. There cannot be any more ever to exist than that. Right now, we're at a little over 20 million having been mined. And to put it in perspective, the next million Bitcoin is going to take 114 years, I think it is, to mine. So we're running out. We're running out of Bitcoin. Interesting way of looking at it. A pleb, that's the next term we'll cover. A pleb is a term of endearment used for everyday Joes involved in Bitcoin. Really is a throwback to the ancient times when normal citizens were called plebeians or plebeians. Last week, Greg used his term on me, maxi. Maxi is someone who it doesn't relate to size or how many Bitcoin they have. It's just someone who's completely focused in the crypto world on Bitcoin and nothing else. All it means. The next term is a short. You hear people shorting Bitcoin or shorting some commodity. What does that mean? It's the expectation that you sell a security with the expectation of buying it back at a lower price. So it's not really a positive thing in terms of an asset.
Well, I mean, you could go into detail for an hour, but yeah, in the larger sense, it's somebody that thinks the value of something is going to go down. Usually it's used when somebody is got like a margin account on an exchange. They will short something by selling it at a certain price, and before their statement is due or before their loan is due, they end up buying it back at a lower price. So essentially they got it, I don't want to say for free, but they didn't have to buy it because they sold it for more than they bought it for.
And a long, by comparison, is really almost the opposite. It's holding on to an asset expecting that the value is going to rise over time and that your asset's going to be worth a lot more in the future. So you put a position on that. The next one is a put. A put is an option to put up for sale, if you will, an underlying asset at a future date for a future price. It generally comes from a negative feeling about the asset. A call, you hear of puts and calls all the time. A call is an option to call X, whatever you're calling, away from the current owner at a certain future date and a certain price. Usually is not an agreement to buy or sell. It usually just says this is available at that time.
I might just add that these are contracts. Puts and calls allow you to have more leverage over an asset. So if I like stock ABC, I could either buy the shares of ABC, or I could buy, if I thought it was going to appreciate, I could buy a call option at much less money. Every contract is leverage on 100 shares.
Makes perfect sense. Let's talk about hodling. Hodling doesn't have anything to do with puts and calls. Hodling means you buy Bitcoin and you hold on to it for dear life. So these last four things that we discussed having to do with trading an asset, they don't, in their purest sense, have any influence on Bitcoin. With the emergence of the ETFs, people can play using these four terms on the price of Bitcoin. They can have influence on the price of Bitcoin. We use terms because we're sort of pushed into the fiat world in terms of how we accumulate Bitcoin and what it's worth after a while. And we're going to continue to get a little bit more deeper and deeper on how this asset behaves. And you just need to have the terminology. Let's shift now and talk about the current price of Bitcoin. I'm going to attempt to share my screen.
Steve, while you're doing that, let me just add to the hodler mindset. I'm a hodler with Bitcoin. I have no clue what the price of Bitcoin is today. I don't care. I mean, people that are continuing to purchase it like it when a price goes down because they can buy more. But I don't know. When you show here shortly the price of Bitcoin, it's going to be news to me because I'm a hodler.
Right, and that's the mindset we all are going for. It's not caring what the price is, because one Bitcoin will always be one Bitcoin. This chart that you're looking at is the time chain calendar. Just, you can go to the web, timechaincalendar.com, and you can download this. And it looks complex as hell. But let me just quickly show you what it is. We care what the Bitcoin price is because that's what's going to cost to buy a Bitcoin today, an entire Bitcoin. Or the number below 71,374 is 1401. That's the number of sats that are available per US dollar. So you can buy a full Bitcoin or you can buy a sat. It doesn't really matter. Looking at this chart a little bit further, that big thing in the middle, that's the block height. Don't worry about it today, but look at the little circle below the big number, 941,874. The last block was mined 2 minutes and 49 seconds ago. If I stay on for 8 minutes, you'll see that thing flash and that number will go up. The next block will have been mined. If you look at the top left, we're in epoch 5, meaning that the halving we talked about earlier has occurred 5 times. The subsidy that was paid to the miner was 3.125 Bitcoin, and there's 95.26% of the entire supply of Bitcoin that will ever be have already been mined. So there's a lot more complexity in this chart, but this basically just shows you at a moment's notice what's going on with Bitcoin. Don't look at this as, I can sell my Bitcoin for 71,319. No, you can't. Well, you can, sure, if you want to. But that just is a representation of what you can buy the Bitcoin for. Or if you want a simpler view of it, you can just go here, hodlantees.com, look in the center, and you'll see that the price is 71,361 right now. You might have noticed a little difference between those two terms. That's because of what exchange it looks at and the timing. But that's basically what's going on. What we want to do now is talk to you a little bit about getting your own Bitcoin and holding it. And if you've already done this, this is 101 for you, maybe just another look at another tool. But we'll talk about using um, a tool called Exodus to purchase your Bitcoin and ask you to literally leave it on the exchange for a week. And we'll talk to you next week about taking it off of the exchange. Before we do that, I'm just remembering that you wanted to talk a little bit about gold versus Bitcoin and share a quick story about an exchange you had with a couple of people you were working with about gold and Bitcoin. You want to go over that?
Well, when I was still working, I worked at the airport. I can say it now for American Airlines. And I was riding home on the employee bus one day, and one guy who was interested in Bitcoin started asking me a lot of questions. Um, and then this pilot for an unnamed airline decided to jump into the conversation and says, Bitcoin's well, it starts with F and rhymes with plucking, scam. I said, okay, thanks for jumping in. But I've found that most people that call Bitcoin a scam really don't have a clear understanding about what the Federal Reserve System's about, because by comparison, I think they'd have their eyes open. He goes, oh, the Federal Reserve System's a scam as well. I said, okay, you and I are in agreement there. I said, so what in your mind is not a scam? And without hesitation, he says, gold. I said, all right, let me ask you a question. I said, you've helped us with your opinion. Why don't you help me out with some facts? How much gold is in circulation right now? And he said, that's a ridiculous question. Nobody can answer that. Well, your app that you just showed shows exactly how many Bitcoin are in circulation. I pulled up a website called coinmarketcap.com. And I'm just looking at it now. And let's say that this happened today. And I said, right now, there's 20,003,043 Bitcoin in circulation. How much gold is in circulation? He goes, well, nobody knows. I said, okay, well, on this scam, we know exactly how much is in circulation, so we can put a value on it. I said, so how much more gold is in the ground waiting to be mined? He goes, well, that's an insane question. He said it was a scam because somebody in media or a banker or a politician told him it was a scam. Now people are becoming more enlightened. I don't think you'll get that response as much. And this was only about a year ago.
Yeah.
But the big institutions are accepting it, so they're not putting it down as much as they used to. People are starting to accept it.
Yeah, it's the old adage is true. Follow the money, right? I mean, the changes in attitude in the media are primarily because the ETFs have really come on strong. You know this over the past couple of years. A lot of ETFs are enormous. BlackRock, which has incredible influence over the markets, it owns the largest ETF, and it's getting to the point where it's hard to discern the truth. And the truth is Bitcoin is simple. Like Greg was talking about, most people don't think about how much gold is available and how much is still in the ground yet to be found. And by the way, how much is in Fort Knox? And by the way, how much is in circulation as jewelry versus how much is in circulation as gold bars? Nobody knows. Gold is ridiculous. It's worked for us for a very, very, very long time. And that book that we mentioned last week, The Creature from Jekyll Island, I think this is on page 144. I don't know why I remember that. Maybe 140. It essentially says, gold works pretty good for a store of value, and it's going to continue to work good until we find something better. Now we found something better. Immutable. It can't be messed with. The other interesting thing about gold and silver, for that matter, of course they're valuable. They have value from a jewelry point of view. They have utility value. They're incredible metals. However, if you look at the current conflict, Middle East, gold has not done really well. It's gone down. It's now down $42. Silver is down $1, and Bitcoin is up to 71,319. That's real time today.
I think that's something really important to note that in a time of crisis, the one asset that really is doing well is Bitcoin, and things that we've always accepted as valuable, and they have not done as well. And I think a large part of that is let's say you're in the country of Iran, but you're able to get out of there. Are you going to get out of there with your gold? Absolutely not. They'll never let
Right.
you leave. Okay.
Right.
But if you want to get out with your Bitcoin, if you had any, have 12 seed words held in a safe place or held up here, and you can walk out with billions if you have it.
Or if you simply wanted to send some money and you weren't leaving the country, you're not. You're going to carry them on. You just can't move it. So right now in the Middle East, I think this was on X probably a week ago, Bitcoin is trading at a premium over there, over the strike price. Gold is trading at a deficit. Silver is trading at a deficit. People are discounting it because they can't get rid of it. They can't move it off. Any more on gold, or should we move on and show people a little bit about a wallet?
Move on.
Right. Let me share this real quickly. I'll share my screen and the window and sharing now. One of the wallets we use is the Exodus wallet. And here's how you get to it. It's very simple. Just go to exodus.com and you'll be asked to download for whatever system you're on a Bitcoin and crypto wallet. When you download it for Windows, then ultimately you'll get to this thing. So this is actually the Exodus wallet. When you go in, all that you're interested in is buying and selling crypto, specifically Bitcoin. And what you're going to do is go to this icon, it says buy and sell in the middle, and then you'll see the screen that I already told you about. You go to US dollars, you put in $20, and this is how much Bitcoin will be returned to you very, very quickly. That's it. You're going to be able to log back in with your email, and you're going to be able to exchange or do something with that $20. And that's all we're asking you to do. Jump in, risk $20, and we'll show you how to move it into self-custody next week. Okay?
There's one more term that people should be familiar with regard to Bitcoin. That term is known as wealthy.
Maybe in our lifetime. Actually, we're not in the prediction business, but it's astonishing to me that people don't just jump all over Bitcoin. I mean, I've still got fiat, you know that. I have to have fiat because of how I have to pay my bills. But I cannot wait to get out because I'm not going to worry about wars. I'm not going to worry about anything. I'm not going to fund any of it. What's your view?
Steve, before we call it a day, you had mentioned stacking sats. So maybe I can leave a teaser for next week.
Sure.
I'm assuming that in time we're going to talk about a lot of different kinds of wallets. Exodus is by no means the only, and I like Exodus. Exodus is one of my primary wallets. But there's a way where you can stack sats by doing what you're doing already, making everyday purchases. And this is a nice, easy way to stack Satoshis. And it is a wallet as well that's insured for, I think, up to $1.5 million. Don't hold me to that number. But maybe a teaser for next week. And
we'll try to fold that into the show.
All right.
All right.
Go fold your laundry. Your shirt's wrinkles.
As usual, we do this not because we're trying to make a ton of money, not because we need you to go to hodlandtees.org and order a bunch of merch. Oh, that'd be nice. We do this because we think there's a gap. There's a gap in what's being covered. No one's really talking to folks our age about Bitcoin. Younger folks probably be interested in this too, but really it's about filling that gap, and it's about becoming aware, if you're a Christian, that Bitcoin is completely in your worldview. It is fair money. You can use it. Bad guys can use it. It's completely neutral. And if you study Bitcoin in Scripture, that's exactly what money is. About 2 or 3 sessions from now, we're gonna cover Christianity and Bitcoin, and just explain to you exactly what we are getting at. Anything else?
Not that I can think of.
No more wisdom from the guru. Wow!
Don't put that on me. Yeah. Ask me where I left my keys this morning, and then tell me how wise I am.
Yeah. Is your car still there?
Yeah. Yeah. In a few weeks, I'm going to hide my own Easter eggs.
Yeah. Okay. If I was a little off today, sorry. It's the green air. I can't think and I can't breathe. But as always, stay humble, stack sats. We love you.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.